We're about to start class number 2 in The Lost Princess, the holy, amazing story from Rebbe Nachman, The Lost Princess. Just an announcement quickly before we go farther. After the last shiur in The Lost Princess, so I heard from a couple people that said that they really do want to continue with Likutei Moharan, and so that they want to have 2 separate times. So I'm going to try, maybe starting either next week or the week after, to pick a new day to do Lost Princess on, and to continue on Wednesday evening with the who's that sweet young man there, and to continue on Wednesday evening with Likutei Moharan. So we'll see. When the time comes, I'll send out a message asking everybody to let me know what would be a day that would work for them, for those who want to continue with The Lost Princess. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on with our special learning of The Lost Princess. This is going to be, I would say it's going to be probably called introduction number 2 to The Lost Princess, because a lot of The Lost Princess, we have to understand some basic main concepts first. And once we get those concepts, it helps us to get a sense of the big picture and a sense of what's going on. So last week, I would say the main topic we discussed last week is the nature of stories from tzaddikim. And the main point, I recorded a short 3-minute shiur, by the way, that I'm going to upload tonight based on last week. The main point is that when tzaddikim tell us stories, the purpose of these stories is that we should see ourselves in the story. We should see our own life in the story. And when we see ourselves in the story, that wakes our soul up. That gets right down into our heart and wakes our soul up. So this is why tzaddikim tell stories, this is the purpose of the stories, and this is why the most amazing thing, like we said last week, which totally is like the biggest, most amazing realization to me personally, is that Hashem wrote our Torah in a story. Right? It didn't have to be that way. But Hashem, in His wisdom, made the universe so that the way that we connect in the deepest way is through a story. And so He wrote His Torah in a story. Totally amazing. So now that we've had these understandings about the depth and the importance of the stories and what stories can do for us, we're now going to begin to start to understand the story at hand. And we're going to talk about 2 main concepts today. We're starting, actually. We're gonna read the first line of the story, and there's going to be 2 main concepts that we're going to talk about based on the first line of the story. So let's get right into it. Okay. So the Torah starts. First of all, everyone should know that it's okay to read Sipur Maisius in English. The stories of Rebbe Nachman in English. You don't have to read them in Hebrew. Why? Because they weren't even originally written in Hebrew. They were written in Yiddish. Because that was the vernacular of the people. So Rebbe Nachman told and wrote the stories in Yiddish, right? So I have a nice Yiddish version of it here, which sometimes has some interesting aspects to it that we'll see. They're gonna, in the second or third class on the actual story, we're gonna get into an important Yiddish phrase. But we can read them in English. So, but I'm gonna say it in Hebrew and a little bit of Yiddish and mostly English, if that's okay with you guys. So the story starts. Anava Amar. The Rebbe came up and said, Baderech siparti maisa. On the way, I told a story. Shekol mi shahaya shoima, that anyone who heard it, haya lo hirhur teshuvah, that person had a thought of teshuvah. Vizuhi, and this is the story. And in Yiddish, the famous first word is in weg, on the way, in the weg. I siparti ma'isa, I told over a story. So, the first thing to discuss over here is, we know that the sicha betela of the tzaddikim, the plain, ordinary speech of the tzaddikim, is very precious to Hashem and is very deep. And there's a place in the Talmud, in the Gemara, where it says that the everyday speech of the slaves of our forefathers is more precious than the divrei Torah of the generations later. And all the more so when tzaddikim commit to writing. They put very special effort into writing something for us. Every word is important. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's like the Torah where every letter and every crown and everything, but every word is very important and well thought out. And in Rebbe Nachman's stories, every second word is Kabbalah and is hinting to something very deep. So we got to really understand, why did Rebbe Nachman start off with Baderech Siparti Maisa? On the way, on the journey, I told over a story. And anyone who heard it had a thought of teshuvah. What does it mean, Baderech? So this is a big topic. Let's get into it. So many of you probably know, if you read any of the stories of Rebbe Nachman, meaning the stories of his life, from Chaim Oran or Yemei, the Shivchei Aran, Sichos Aran, all these books about him. In English, you have Tzaddik by the BRI, and if you read, Until the Mashiach is another one, and Through Fire and Water has all these aspects of the life of Rebbe Nachman and Rebbe Nosson. But you know that Rebbe Nachman went on many mysterious journeys. Sometimes he would get up and just go somewhere. And everyone knew that he was going for some kind of deep reason. But no one was able to understand and fathom the depths of what he was really doing. And we all know, of course, the very, very famous story of the Rebbe Nachman's trip to Eretz Yisrael, which we tell over on Shvi Shal Pesach in the Breslov tradition, by the Sudas Baal Shem Tov. So Rebbe Nachman went on journeys, and his whole life was going from one place to another. He spent all kinds of time traveling throughout the whole area, and it really was not easy. He had a very, very difficult life in practicality. From the tremendous opposition that he faced, to sicknesses, and his own battle with tuberculosis, and the deaths of his children, Nebuch. Very, very difficult life and difficult travels. But he went on all these journeys. And really, it's referring to the journey that we all go on. We are all, in our life, on a journey. And Rebbe Nachman is telling us, you know what? There's going to be a journey. Life is going to be a big journey, and it's going to be really hard. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. But Rebbe Nachman, it's as if he's looking to us and he's saying, but you know what? I've been there. I've paved the way for you. And I'm going to be there with you, and I'm going to have advice for you, and I'm going to kaviyachol, hold your hand through it. This is the way that tzaddikim operate, that they pave the path for the people that come after them and for their followers. And there we go. And for those people who are close to the tzaddikim, we have the ability to benefit from that which they've already done, they've already accomplished and gone through. So, what's the derech? What way are we on? What's the journey that we're on? In order to really start to talk about and understand the journey that we're on here, we have to start thinking about the lost princess a little bit. Who is the lost princess? What is the lost princess? What does the lost princess mean to me? So this is something we're going to talk about over and over again. But we have to get started. And we have to start building our understanding of the lost princess. So there's a Kabbalistic, Kabbalah understanding of what the lost princess is. And there's a personal understanding of what the lost princess is. So we're going to start with the personal understanding of the lost princess and think about that, and then we'll move forward. So in the book, Yaakov Klein does a very beautiful job of talking about one aspect of what the lost princess is. And it's like this. I'm going to start this with a very quick Torah from the Ishbitzer Rebbe. And the Ishbitzer Rebbe says like this. This is a wild, amazing idea. And it really sets the tone. This mamash sets the tone for the whole thing. So the Zohar HaKadosh says that there's 3 screams, but there's one scream in particular that goes from one end of the universe to the other. And what is that scream? That scream is the scream of a mother during childbirth. The scream of a mother during childbirth goes from one end of the universe to the other. So a deeper understanding of this, and something that the Ishbitzer Rebbe brings out, is he says, that scream, the reason that scream goes from one end of the universe to the other, is not because it's just a woman in pain. Not that I'm belittling that, by the way. But that's not the only thing that's happening during that scream. The Ishbitzer Rebbe says that scream is actually the scream of the soul of that baby that's being born. And it's channeling through the mother. And what is so amazing about that scream, that it's heard from one end of the universe to the other, is that scream is the pain of this soul that is coming from Gan Eden, that is coming from the purest of all purities, from the holiest of all holies, and being torn away from that closeness to its source and put into the Alma de Shikra, the world of falsehood, put into this physical world. And that soul is screaming because it's going away from its root. It's being taken away from, we always say that a Jewish soul is called a chelik elikam imal. It's a piece of Hashem. That piece is being separated from Hashem, from the utmost joy, simcha, security, bliss, comfort, menucha, every possible beauty. That soul is being torn away from that and brought into existence in this world. That's the scream that is heard from one end of the universe to the other. That's a real scream. Right? And so Be'emes, this is really the beginning of the journey. This is the beginning of the derech. This soul is going from the place that it was hewn from a piece of absolute holiness and infinity, and beginning its journey in this world. This is also why we have to have a Shalom Zachar, by the way, to comfort this soul. The soul, we have a tradition that the soul, before it comes down, it's learning all of the Torah with Amalek, with an angel. And then it gets smacked on this thing right here, right? Everybody knows that? That's why we have that funny line there under our nose, between our lips. And it forgets everything. And so begins the journey. Right? And so, that baby, in many ways, is the closest to its source that it will ever be in its life, in its existence, physical existence in the world. Right? So you have a beautiful baby, and we all, I believe, this is me saying this, but I believe we all know this. When we look at a beautiful new baby, right? Everyone is enthralled with this baby, and the innocence and the purity and it's palpable and tangible. It's so amazing to see a new baby, right? So that baby is the closest it could be ever to its source. It just came from there. And so the child starts to live its life, right? And what is so amazing about childhood? Like, if we can all think back, it's mamash hashgacha pratis that there's a beautiful child showing his face in here right now. Hashgacha pratis, right? What's so amazing about childhood? You know, you look at a child, and what do they have? They, you know, a young enough child. They have a certain like essence, a certain like kind of joie de vivre, they say in French, right? Like a certain vibrance. They don't have self-consciousness, right? A child can dance around in their diaper, or even with nothing on, with not a shred of self-consciousness, and they believe in things. They have dreams, right? There's no shaila to them that they could do anything they want in the world. They're mamash amazing. They're open. Now I'm going to read a few lines from what Rebbe Yaakov Klein wrote over here. It says, in a healthy environment. Sorry, 1 second. I skipped a little bit here. Just 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, check this out. In a healthy environment, we're talking about the transformation, the growth from being a child to an adult. In a healthy environment, this transformation is the glorious voyage from selfishness to selflessness, irresponsibility to maturity, and small-mindedness to a broader perspective. This is how we, in our minds, envision growing up. Becoming more mature, right? Yet, for all the advantage this transition implies, it oftentimes involves a profound loss. As wonderful as it is to live as an adult in the grown-up world, the journey from childhood to adulthood is often the journey from wonder to apathy, from simplicity to sophistication, from innocence to wariness, from self-confidence to self-doubt. Most devastatingly, from spiritual sensitivity to the numbing of the soul. So, Chevra, this is what we see when we see a beautiful little child, right? They're self-confident. They have wonders. They're enamored with the world. They're simple. They're not conniving. They don't have any tachbulis. They don't have any schemes in their mind. No, nothing. They're simple, straightforward, and spiritually sensitive, and emotionally sensitive. And what happens? We grow up, and as we grow up, those things transform, and we go from wonder to apathy, from simplicity to sophistication. So, what happens to us? This is something that you know I've talked to a lot of people about, and I know a lot of people experience, but you know, one of the ways that I envision this personally, and I know I experienced it as a child myself also, and I'm sure many people have as well. But you know, as a child, we haven't been hurt yet, and we're very trusting, and we have a good outlook in the world. We have an ayin tov still. So something will happen. A child will open themselves up to, let's say, their friends or a family member, and will maybe share something that's an intimate part of themselves. Share something that they like, share something that they feel strongly about, share that they have strong feelings for another person. And as soon as they open themselves up and they really bear, you know, who they are, at some point in their life, someone is going to take that information and betray them with it. They might start to make fun of them. They might start to tell other people about it, right? They may start to just look down on them because of that. And at that moment, what happens to that child? That child makes, in a certain sense, makes a vow in their mind makes a decision that I'm not going to open myself up like that to anyone ever again. I'm not going to be that person who just has an ayin tov, who thinks everyone's great. I'm not going to be so trusting to everybody. And that person, that child at that point, shuts down and puts one layer over their beautiful, shining, wondrous, simple soul. Now, I want you to think for a second. That's one tiny example. Imagine, don't imagine too hard, but imagine a house where there's tremendous dysfunction. Imagine a house where there's maybe, let's say, addiction. Maybe, let's say, there's abuse. Imagine such a situation. And once again, not too hard because it'll hurt. But imagine that every time this beautiful, innocent, wondrous soul that only wants to see good in the world and only wants to be good, over and over again, gets beaten down, gets dirtied, gets embarrassed, gets betrayed, over and over again, right? Layer after layer goes on. And the more it happens, the more that child says, I cannot show anyone who I am. I cannot be vulnerable. I cannot just look for good. I have to protect myself. Subconsciously, of course. Right? And that person covers themselves up, because they're afraid to be hurt. And we don't blame them, right? So, that's one way that we begin to lose our childhood. We begin to lose what many people call, by the way, it's amazing. I know many people are into a type of therapy that has to do with what we call inner child, right? And this that Rebbe Nachman is teaching us here is the lost princess is the inner child. The lost princess is your little princess, your little prince of your little one, as some people like to say. That's one way that we start to cut off our little one, our child, our inner child. Another way is that we start to lose our ability to just dream and to feel that we can accomplish anything. That all those things that I want for myself, I want to have, a beautiful family. I want to have a wonderful, close relationship with somebody, a spousal relationship. I want to have beautiful children. I want to have a great relationship with my parents, with my children, with my spouse. I want to have good, close relationships with friends. All of these things that I dream about, they start to get squashed when the reality of the world starts to set in. All of those dreams and aspirations start to get tempered with what many people call the real world, right? So the dreams of being a person who has inner aspirations and who has holy desires and who thinks on a deep level get overrun by the necessity to show other people that I can accomplish things, that I can have a job, and I can make a lot of money, and I can meet the right people. I can have, the trophy wife or the trophy husband. And all of that, in pursuing the rat race and this world, I once again step further and further away from that little baby, that little child. And it all goes to the wayside. Cynicism, lack of confidence, all of these things are removing me farther and farther away from that precious, precious soul that I came into the world with. Until at some point, something changes, right? This is one beautiful, beautiful way to start to understand what the nature of the lost princess is that aspect of us. Another way to understand it is to think about the concept of a husband and wife relationship. So I got to say over something that Rabbi Weinberger says, because it's just a really good way to understand it and a little bit funny. So it says like this, you have a couple that comes in to couples therapy or to meet with the rabbi. They're having a difficult time in their relationship, right? This kind of thing happens a lot, of course. And they come in, and the wife, let's play to some classical gender roles here, just to make it easier, okay? It doesn't have to be this way, but we're just going to go this way. So, the wife speaks up first and says, I just don't feel like there's anything to our relationship. When we got married, we had long talks, we had a deep connection, we had passion. We don't have that anymore. It's like we're. I heard someone say on a similar topic. It's like we're business partners in a really terrible non-profit organization. Right? And so what does the husband say? The husband says, I don't know what you're talking about. Am I not a good husband? Don't we have beautiful children? Don't I provide well for you? We have a nice house. We have nice children. We're doing well. Am I not a nice guy? And she kind of shakes her head and she says, yeah, you are a nice guy. You're a good guy. And you're right, we have beautiful children. And we have a nice house. And you take care of us. But that's it? Shouldn't there be something more? What about the relationship that we're supposed to have? What about the closeness? What about the depth? What about the passion? What about the love? The love, when you love somebody so much that you just can't wait to see them. And you call them multiple times a day, whenever you can, because you just want to talk to them. You do everything you can to spend time with that person and to help that person and to show them you care. What happened to that? Right? That also is an aspect of the lost princess in that husband-wife relationship for sure, but also in our relationship with Hashem. What happened to that? Where is it? Right? I believe very strongly that any one of us who's here, listening to this right now, and for sure anyone who became a Baal Tshuva, and for sure anyone who finds themselves drawn to the Torah of Rebbe Nachman, has this exact feeling. I'm living my life, and things could be going okay even. They're not always going okay, but things could be going okay even, right? But there's something I'm missing. Where is my passion? Where is my connection? Where is that love? Where's that deep relationship that I should be feeling? Where is it? Right? So it happens that at some point, something hits us. And we wake up a little bit. And we realize, wow, hold on a second. Something's not right. Something is very wrong. Something is missing. Something is missing. And that's the moment when we first start to wake up and start to realize that the princess is lost. That our connection to our soul is lost. Our innocence is lost. Our love, our passion, our desire for closeness is lost. Our belief that I can be a person of tremendous connection and love and passion with Hashem and with other people, it's gone. It's lost. And so, Rebbe Nachman wrote this story about this exact situation. And Rebbe Nachman said, Baderech siparti maisa. On the derech, on the way, I told over a story. And anyone who heard this story had a thought of teshuvah. What does teshuvah mean? What does teshuvah mean? So teshuvah means to return. Right? And I'm sure we've spoken about this in other classes, but there's a very, very important distinction that was brought out by the Baal Shem Tov and his students compared to the basic understanding of teshuvah. Many people mistakenly think that to do teshuvah means that something about me is wrong. Something about me is broken or crooked, so I need to take a tool and adjust it back into shape because I'm wrong and broken. Right? And I need to be bent back into shape, fixed, whatever the story is. That is a mistaken understanding of teshuvah. The Baal Shem Tov brought this beautiful view of teshuvah into the world, which is also, it comes from the holy books. That teshuvah means that I am returning to my true self. I have lost my true self. I've strayed far away from who I really am. And teshuvah means to return. It doesn't mean to fix. It means to return. It means I'm going back to who I really am. Right? And so Rebbe Nachman says in Torah, let me think for a second, Torah Lamed Hey, in the very beginning of Torah Lamed Hey, he says that there's a concept, and it's of teshuvah, of something returning to its point of origin, to its roots. This is what teshuvah means. So, when we put this together with our beautiful understanding from the Ishbitzer Rebbe about the scream of the soul when it comes into existence, and it leaves the beauty of its closeness to Hashem and comes down into the Alma de Shikra, into this world of falsehood and confusion. When it comes into this world, it begins to go further and further away from that place that it came from that holy, holy place which it came from. And as we said, it begins to put layers over it, covering itself up and getting it further and further away from that holy place where it was and from the holy essence of it, covering up the light of that soul, getting further and further away from our inner child, knocking down that beautiful little princess, that beautiful little prince, right? And teshuvah means getting back to that existence, taking off all those layers of schmutz and dirt and pain and abuse and betrayal and everything that ever happens, to get back to that level where now my soul shines out from its essence, from its origin. That is teshuvah, going back to that place. So Rebbe Nachman said, once again, we're never going to forget these words, Chaver. Baderech siparti maisa. On the way, I told over a story. V'chol mi sheshoima, and anyone who heard it had to hear her teshuvah, had a thought of teshuvah. I believe that the proper way to understand this, which I haven't really heard anyone say before, but I think really it makes the most sense, is that the point of hearing the Lost Princess and engaging in learning the Lost Princess, we've been on this derech, away from ourselves, and away from Hashem, and away from our true essence. And we come to a point where we wake up. If you remember, we said in the first introduction, Rebbe Nachman said the purpose of his stories are to wake us up. So we come to a point, we wake up, and we have a thought of teshuvah, and what happens? We begin to head back to who we really are. The moment when we start to have this awakening, and we start to engage in this story of the Lost Princess, is the moment where we start to turn back to who we really are. And we start to go closer to our origin, and closer to our root, and closer to our holiness. So, Rebbe Nachman told us, the derech is not easy. The derech is hard. There's many manias. There's many ups and downs. There's plenty of difficulty. But, as we said, he said, you know what? If you persevere, if you're in action, you have, what's an action in English? If you have stubbornness, holy stubbornness, and you keep pushing, there's no shaila, no doubt, 100%, you will be successful. And Rebbe Nachman says, I've done it, and people before me did it, and I will help you, says Rebbe Nachman. So, a couple more things on this derech concept, and before we look at the Kabbalistic understanding over here. Do you guys remember we learned Torah Vav many moons ago? Torah Vav. And over there, this was a very, very special Torah, where Rebbe Nachman said that someone who wants to be holy has to be a baki b'halacha, an expert. Baki means expert. Baki b'halacha. But he didn't mean halacha like Jewish law. He meant halacha like halicha. Like you have to be an expert in moving, in going. And he said you have to be a baki b'ratzoy and baki b'shoiv. You have to be an expert in going up and an expert in coming down. You have to know how to be a Jew and how to have emunah and how to be successful when you're on the way up. Things are going great. You have to have a certain mindset. And you also have to know, you have to be a baki b'shoiv. You have to also know how to be a Jew when you're down in the dumps and when you're in the worst possible position. And there's a certain wisdom to each one of those, and a certain way to exist through those ups and downs, because we're all going to face them. So Rebbe Nachman said you have to be a baki b'ratzoy, baki b'shoiv. And we said over there that the word baki, the gematria of the word baki is 112. And you have to have shnei bekiyas, Rebbe Nachman said. You have to have two types of being a baki, but you have to be baki and baki. And baki plus baki, 112 plus 112 is 214. And 214 is the gematria of the word derech. Baderech siparti maisa. On the derech, I woke you up, guys. I'm waking you up, guys, on the derech. And it's not easy. You have to know, you have to be a derech means you're on a path of ups and downs. And you gotta be able to move up, and you gotta be able to go down. And in both circumstances, you have to be able to be close to Hashem and have emunah and do what your job is at that particular time. I shouldn't say that. You don't have to always feel close to Hashem, but you have to know that Hashem's always with you, and you always have to be able to do the right thing, the right avodah in all those situations. That's baki. That's the two types of baki which equal derech. This is what it means to be on the derech. So there's one other place that we cannot go farther without talking about, which is so super important. There's another place in the Torah where we talk about the word derech and being on a journey. And the place is by Amalek. So Amalek, everybody knows that the essence of Amalek is confusion and doubt. The gematria of Amalek is suffix. Doubts and confusion and lack of clarity is the essence of Amalek. So, you know how I always like to say that someone who has emunah is a person with calm confidence? Right? Why do I have calm confidence? Because I know, I'm clear. My emunah is strong. My das is strong. So I have calm confidence. Amalek is the opposite of that. is when I don't know what's happening. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing is Hashem really there for me? Is Hashem not? Is this going to be good? Is this going to be good? Everything's doubtful. Everything's up in the air. Everything's mavulbal. Everything's up. Everything's confusing. That's the olam of Amalek. And the olam of Amalek cools off our avodas Hashem. Cools off our avodas Hashem. So the pasuk says about Amalek, asher korcha baderech, that Amalek, the usual translation is he happened upon us on the derech, right? But what the commentators say is that no, korcha baderech comes from the lashon of kor, of cold, that Amalek tries to cool us off. This whole concept of being on the derech and being pulled further and further away from the warmth of our beautiful holy neshama, and our passionate connection to Hashem, and our emunah, and our das, that derech, going away from that, is also Amalek, asher korcha baderech. So chevra, sometimes we get caught up in this, and we're living a life that is meaningless. And we've been pushing and pushing in the business world, and we've been fighting with our family members, and we've been just, trying to please people, and trying to show the rest of the world that we're something that we're not, for years and years and years and years and years, until finally we wake up, and we begin the journey back to who we really are. This is the beginning of the journey of finding the lost princess. Finding that beautiful child that we really are, finding our passion, finding our connection to Hashem, starting to believe again that I can really be a person of holiness. I can be a person of dveikus, connection, cleaving to Hashem. I can be a person that puts good into the world. This is a real, attainable purpose in my life. And I can have passion with it. And it can be good. The world can be good, and I can do it. This is all aspect of finding the lost princess. So, that's asher korcha b'derech. That's the derech. Rebbe Nachman also said, let's see the lashon. He said, Shekol mi shehaya shoima. Anyone who heard it had a hear of teshuvah, had a thought of teshuvah. So there's another condition to this, guys. And that is that if we want to wake up and we want to be on this journey to find the lost princess, we have to really hear this story. We have to really hear it. We've spoken a few times about the concept of shmiya in Judaism. So the pasuk in Navi, talking about I can't remember which Navi it is, asks Hashem to give him a lev shemea, a hearing heart. Shmiya, the hearing, goes into the heart. The heart is connected to really hearing something. Meaning, not only did I hear someone was talking, but it went into my heart. It became part of me. I really heard that story. In Parshas Yisro, right? So everyone in the world heard about Kriyas Yamsuf and Matan Torah, right? But the pasuk says only about one person. Vayishma Yisro. Yisro heard, right? You know how many other people also heard? Everyone else also heard. But Yisro really heard. He really heard that something happened by Kriyas Yamsuf. And it went into him to such an extent that he was able to come and to become a convert to Judaism and to have a parsha named after him in the Torah and to help Moshe Rabbeinu appoint a whole legal system, right? Because he really heard. It really went in. So there's an aspect of hearing that is not just listening to words, that it's when it goes into the heart, into the soul. we're going to be successful, and we're going to understand what it means to find the lost princess. And we're going to do it. We're going to accomplish it. We're going to be successful if we're able to hear the story. Meaning, if we're able to see ourselves in this story. Am I going to be able to really hear that this story is the story of my life? And is my story? And if I'm able to really hear it and to turn it into myself, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to find the lost princess. I'm going to gain all those things. I'm going to get back to my holy roots. And I'm going to shine my beautiful neshama to the whole world. Right? But that's if I really hear it. I think everybody knows this is something that's really important, once again, in a relationship. And this is what we're talking about. How many times, I shouldn't say how many times, can everybody imagine a husband and wife relationship and a parent and child relationship? When, imagine that, the wife is telling the husband something, and the husband is, let's say he's on his phone. He's like, yeah, yeah, right? Does that create a relationship? Does that create a connection? Is he listening to his wife? Is he there? And is that going into his heart? Is he becoming one with his wife during that interaction? No. He's doing the opposite. He's showing her that he doesn't care. Right? I do this sometimes, and I have to be very, very careful with this. And with children, oh my gosh. If we don't do this, if we don't hear our children and really listen to them, we are sending them far away from the lost princess. We are doing it. Whenever we sit with our children and we really listen to them and we hear them and we spend time with them and we hear their emotions, we hear what they're going through, we connect to them, oh my gosh, we are removing layers. We're helping them find the lost princess. If we don't do that, if we do the opposite of that, if we don't hear them and we just have our own agenda, or we don't care, or we can't be bothered, or just the rat race is too busy, you know what we're doing? We're putting on another layer and sending them farther away from the lost princess. It's painful to say. I know it's not easy, but this is an aspect that we can all be very careful with. But this is the thing. Just like that works with the relationship with the husband and wife and the children, the same thing is with the lost princess and us. If we really hear it and we really listen, if we learn the lost princess and we're learning it because we want to cling to Hashem with the Vekas, and we want to have that relationship, and we're showing Hashem that we're really there, we're going to get closer and closer, and we're going to be successful. But if not, we're just getting farther away. So this is the journey that we're on. Rabbi Weinberger also said a beautiful idea. I don't know if he made it up, but it's very powerful. And he said that it's the nature of a Jew to be homesick even when we're at home. It's the nature of a Jew to be homesick even when we're at home. We could be in our house that we've had for a long time, but a Jew we have something in us that there's more. There's something that we're missing. There's something that we can get closer to. It's a very deep idea. Even in Eretz Yisrael, by the way. We can sit here and say, you know what, we got to get home to Eretz Yisrael. But you know what, in Eretz Yisrael, you're also homesick. For now. Yeah. So that's where we are. Let's talk about, just to finish off, let's talk a little Kabbalah. Okay? A little bit of Kabbalah and a little bit of, hopefully, some good understanding of this aspect of Kabbalah. So, the next part of the story goes, Maisa b'melech echad. There was a story about a certain king, Shahayu loy shisha banim uvas echas, that he had 6 sons and 1 daughter. Va'oisa habas haisa chashuva be'einav me'od. And that daughter was very, very precious in his eyes. V'haya mechabcha v'yoser, v'haya mishashea ima me'od. And he loved her more than the rest, and he spent a lot of time with her. That's the real beginning of the story. So, like we said, there's no wasted words here. And this whole story, some of the big Mekubalim have said that the Sipurim Isis of Rebbe Nachman belong in the canon of the Sifrei Kabbalah. Because really, they're on many different levels. They can be read by a child, and he can learn a lesson from them. They can be read by mere mortals like us, and we can take maybe a little bit deeper lessons from it. And in Kabbalah, they are the deepest of the deep. So, the king had 6 sons and 1 daughter. What are we talking about over here? So, the king in these stories is always referring to Hashem. Let's keep Hashem out of the realm of Kabbalah. We'll just say it's Hashem. And he had 6 sons and 1 daughter. So in the order of the series of Kabbalah, right? We know we have the intellectual series of Keser Chachma Bina, and then we have the 7 lower spheres, which are made up of the 6 spheres which are called Zer Anpin, which are Chesed, Gevur, and Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. And then we have below that the final sphere of Malchus. Right? So in the story of the Lost Princess, the 6 sons represent those 6 Zer Anpin spheres of Chesed, Gevur, and Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. And the Lost Princess represents Malchus. So let's talk about this a little bit. So the parts of Zer Anpin is masculine in nature. In Kabbalah, what do we mean when we say masculine in nature? We mean that it's a mashpia, right? Just like in the physical act between a man and a woman, there's a giver and a receiver, physically, right? So too, that type of energy is characterized as masculine and feminine energy. So the parts of Zer Anpin is a mashpia, and it ends with the sphere of Yesod, which corresponds to the male organ. And all of those spheres of Chesed, Gevur, Netzach, Hod, Yesod are connected to the physical aspects of the body. The 2 arms and the torso and the 2 legs, right? This is what the parts of Zer Anpin, these 6 spheres, the 6 sons, right, are masculine, are mashpia, and are physical doers. You hear? And so, in the world, they represent, one second. In the world, they represent also the 6 days of the week. They represent physicality. They represent a quantitative measurement of achievement and success. So what does that mean? The 6 days of the week are the 6 days of work. That's when we are working with our hands and we're building and we're doing business and we're doing everything we do. They represent the physical, quantitative aspect of that work. How much money did I make? How nice is my house? Quantitative. It's external, it's impressive, it's grandiose, are some of the words that Rabbi Yaakov uses. That's what the 6 sons represent. That's what those spheres of Zer Anpin represent. Right? But the Lost Princess, which is Malchus, represents the feminine quality of being a Makabel, or a Mekabelis. And it represents Shabbos. Right? What happens on Shabbos? So, let me see if he says a beautiful idea over here. He says, just one second, I gotta find this because it's so gorgeous. He says somewhere that if the 6 sons represent the idea of doing, then the lost princess represents the idea of being, of just existing and being. On the 6 days of the week, we are working, we're preparing, we're doing everything we need to do to make money, to provide for our family, to make food, to eat, to do this, to that, to prepare for Shabbos. But then on Shabbos, what's it all about? It's all quantitative during the week. Shabbos comes, everything is qualitative. I'm not doing any more work. I'm not making anything. I'm focusing on relationships. I'm focusing on my relationship with Hashem. I'm focusing on my relationship with my family and my friends. Everything is about this existence of connection. This is the lost princess. So there's different ways we see it also, right? Like in religion, let's say. So we can see how it comes across in regular life and in parnasa and in work. In religion, there's also 6 sons and a lost princess. You know what the 6 sons of religious observance are? You know how many masechtas I learned? And how many siyumim I made? And I wear certain types of religious clothing. And I when I'm in front of other people, I behave a certain way. Right? This is 6 son behavior. You hear? It's external. And it's quantitative. This is what the 6 sons are all about in a religious observance aspect. What are the qualities of the lost princess, of the princess, when it comes to religious observance? Sensitivity, simplicity, humility, emunah, tefillah, holy desire, right? These are all aspects of the feminine, of malchus, of qualitative connection and relationship to Hashem, right? You don't measure someone's sensitivity, simplicity, or humility by filling out a chart. It's not a quantity. It's not a quantitative idea. You don't measure someone's holy desire by putting them through a computer system and having it spit out a score. Right? It's not about that. It's about quality. It's a qualitative thing. It's the Shabbos of religious observance, you hear? And it's the things that are not always seen and are not always visible to everybody. And they're more personal and they're more connective. So this is also why you see that we call Shabbos. What's Shabbos called? Friday night we say by Lecha Doidi, we say Boi Chala Shabbos Malchasa. It's Aramaic. I'm sorry. Shabbos Malchasa. The Shabbos is the Malka. Shabbos is the queen. Right? Shabbos is the queen. Shabbos is the queen. She's feminine. Shabbos. So this is what we're looking for in our beginning of the Lost Princess. I know that in my personal existence, I feel, I don't know if everybody feels like this. I think probably most of the type of people who are sitting here learning the Lost Princess feel this way. But I feel that throughout my whole life, I've always felt that there's something wrong. Something's missing. Something's not right. And I've always felt that there's something out there. There's something special and something great and something amazing that I need to find. And I feel like I told you last week, when I first, for myself, read this story, without knowing anything about anything about Breslov, Rebbe Nachman, nothing. I read this story, and I felt right away, and I actually verbalized it to other people. I just read this story, and I felt like it did something to my soul. Something in me changed. And I think that we have a real opportunity to spend some time going through the story. This was just the introduction, and every step of the way we're going to learn something deep and beautiful and connective and awakening that is really going to help us on our journey. And I'm not sure if we'll do one more week of the Lost Princess on Wednesday, or if we'll try and already switch next week. But we're gonna switch to have 2 classes per week, one on the Lost Princess and one on Likutei Moharan, soon for those who requested. One last point before we go, guys, very quick. This is important. So I don't know if you have all noticed, probably not, because you're very holy people, but there's a very, very powerful occupation that the world has with movies and television shows, right? People are drawn to movies like in an incredible way, and people develop strong emotional connections to movies, right? And you have, people who like the Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and all these Marvel series and everything, right? And I'm not up on movies these days. I did in my past life read Lord of the Rings and see those movies, and I'm a big fan. And when I was a little kid, I saw Star Wars as like a little tiny toddler in the theater. But we have, why is the world so crazy about movies? Like, it's a gigantic industry, and it's all over the place. Everywhere you look, in every country, right? Even in little tiny, like, third world countries, they're watching movies. Everybody is powerfully drawn to movies. And I believe very strongly, I was discussing this with my holy Chaver, Rabbi Adam Law, that the world has lost its connection to the real story, right? Of course, but by that I mean the Torah. But I also mean the way that our own soul and our own journey interacts with that story of the Torah. The Lost Princess is the story. It's the story of creation. It's the story of past, present, and future. And it's the story of our own individual lives. And it's the most powerful story because it's real and it's actually our story. And if we would pay attention to this story the way that we pay attention to those movies and get drawn into it the way we got drawn into those movies, we will be affected in a profound, profound way. The last aspect of the Lost Princess is that the Lost Princess, the king, of course, is Kudsha Brichu, and the Lost Princess is the Shechina. These are all aspects of the Lost Princess, and they're not different. They're all the same thing. When we bring ourselves closer to the Lost Princess, we bring the Shechina closer to Hashem. When we wake up and do teshuvah and return, the Shechina returns to Hashem. And they're not even different things. It's impossible to talk about these things because they're a little beyond our ability to understand. But it's all one thing. It's fixing the entire universe. And every mitzvah that we do, and every time we make an effort to do teshuvah, we're bringing ourselves closer, and we're bringing the Shechina closer, we're bringing Mashiach closer, we're bringing the whole world closer to its ultimate perfection. So those are all great stories and movies. But this is the story. the story of our lives, the story of creation, the story of past, present, and future. So Mirz Hashem, we'll get through it. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we'll go step by step. And thank you. Any questions or comments? Please go ahead. Rabbi Yonah, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
So isn't it also that Shabbos is also Mishpia? Because Shabbos gives the vitality for the week to come from Sunday till Wednesday, and then it also, it's also the cause of the Wednesday to Friday.
100%.
Malchus is the cause of for Yitzira, the getting to Mishpia for Bria.
100%. 100%. Absolutely. And he's saying something very important, and that is that the Malchus and Shabbos really play two roles. They are, in a sense, the receiver of all of the effort of the week leading up to it. They're the makabel, the receiver of all of that. But really, in addition to that, it's the goal of existence, first of all, right? It's the ultimate existence is Shabbos, and is the world to come. And not only that, Shabbos is called Makor HaBracha. Shabbos is also the source of blessing for the rest of the week. In other words, once Zer Anpin is united with Malchus, right? That creates the shefa that's going to go down into the world below it. That unification creates all of the good stuff that's gonna flow down into the next week, into the lower levels of existence, right? So the lost princess is a receiver, but when she receives, and when she's put in the right place, and she's given the right opportunity, and all the factors are there, she then provides sustenance to everything else, right? In such a beautiful way. In another way, by the way, there's in the physical realm, you can make six points to identify a center point in a three-dimensional space, right? So you have like top, bottom, left, right, front, back. Think lulav and esrog also, right? So those are the 6 suns as well, right? Because why? Because they are all about physicality and physical space and working within the revealed existence. So where's the Malchus and the Lost Princess? She's the point that they're all pointing to. She's the center which they're all hovering around. She's the center which they're all identifying. The point of everything, right, is that center point, is the Malchus of the Lost Princess. But Malchus in Kabbalah is always the lowest of one world, one universe, and transitioning down into the highest of the next universe. That's the dual nature of Malchus and of the Lost Princess, as Rebbe Yonah pointed out so nicely. Anything else? Ever comments? Questions? Stories? Personal well wishes?
Happy birthday to Sandra Finkelstein.
Psh. Psh. Is it today? Is it today, Sandra?
Tomorrow, and I put something in the post that my blessings for all of you.
Ah. Sorry, I was a little busy. A special happy birthday to Sandra. You should go to Admei of Esrim, to 120 plus, always, every moment, getting closer to the Lost Princess.